As I mentioned in the previous tutorial, Cubase 7, the first time you launch it, should go out and get most of your preference settings from your previous version of Cubase. But let's just go in and double check some of the most important settings just in case you actually didn't have these set up in a previous version of Cubase. So what I'm going to do is go under the Cubase menu on a Mac, or if you are on a PC, you'd go to the File menu, but either way, you would select Preferences. And we've already come here once to look at our work area, but what I want to do is confirm that my autosave is turned on and set to the correct interval. So on the left-hand side of the screen, I'm going to click on the General settings, and then on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll notice that autosave is turned on. However, I like to use a 5-minute autosave. The factory default is 15 minutes. So I'm just going to double click here and type in 5 so that I have an autosave interval of 5 minutes. That'll hit save for me every 5 minutes so that if I do have a crash or a power outage or anything like that, I won't have to swim upstream any longer than 5 minutes of work. And then I'm going to let you know that if you don't want to use the Steinberg hub, which I told you about in a previous tutorial, that window that appears every single time you launch Cubase, you can disable it here, but you can always get to the Steinberg hub settings by going to the Steinberg hub pull-down menu, which is a new pull-down menu in Cubase 7. So if you want Cubase 7 to act a little bit more like Cubase 6 when you launch it, just disable the hub right here. Now there's one other setting that I'm going to recommend you make, and maybe you've already made it, but if you go under the editing section and click on Project and Mix Console, then you'll notice that these two settings for Enable Record, either on audio tracks or MIDI tracks, is enabled by default. And personally, these drive me crazy because every time I select a track, it record enables it and unrecord enables any record enabled track that I had previously set. So I really don't like that to work that way. So I'm going to disable Enable Record on both the audio track and MIDI track settings. Then I'm going to come to the lower part of the Preferences window, click on Apply, and then click OK. Now, I think that you will find that those settings will not only save your project so that you don't lose your work when you forget to be diligent about hitting the save button when you need to, but it also makes Cubase easier to work with, especially when you start to add more and more and more tracks, and you don't necessarily want to have the record button follow when you're selecting those tracks. So Cubase is going to work better for you this way. Now there's one more thing I want to show you, and that is involving the metronome, but I'm going to do that in the next tutorial.